Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Channel Futures TV. I am joined today by Katie Drozd, CSS at Dell Technologies. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm Allison Francis, Senior News Editor at Channel Futures. And Katie, let's dive right in here. I think we wanted to talk a bit about today, live optics. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Live Optics is a really cool tool here that we use all the time at Dell. And I'll just put it in an easy sense as a diagnostics tool. So this is a software-based tool that can be ran on a server, on a desktop, laptop, any sort of device to really show you, what's going on under the hood. So it looks at things like processors and memory and storage, non-data intrusive. So it really picks up nothing important on your actual system, but it's kind of like a checkup for any of your systems to see how they're running. Maybe something is not going right, or you just want to see and make sure all of the moving pieces inside your machines are up to speed and working properly. Live Optics is the tool that you can run to go ahead and do that for your environment.
Gotcha. Interesting. So what is the right time, I suppose, if you want to phrase it that way, to run Live Optics in an environment?
Yeah, so Live Optics is something that, there could be a better time, but there's never really, the right time. But I would say it's more of a routine basis. That's kind of the conversation that I have a lot of time with my customers, because I do talk to them all the time about Live Optics is, let's go ahead and run this. You might think, maybe it's a hardware refresh time. Maybe it's been 3 years for a business or for a client, and it's about that time to start the conversations. Well, that's a great time for Live Optics to be ran, to go ahead and run the tool. It gives you a report. Most of the time they're pretty colors in a PowerPoint or a PDF. So it's very pretty to look at. It's awesome when it comes time for hardware refresh, but there's also the other side of just a checkup. So I know, we as humans, we have checkups at the doctor, but sometimes, you might just need an extra appointment. And that's kind of how Live Optics can be translated. I would always recommend running it anytime for hardware refresh. But if you're ever just curious, maybe something feels wrong, maybe you're losing a little sleep at night, Live Optics can be ran just to give you a little bit of peace of mind, but definitely to take those next steps any point in a hardware refresh cycle.
Well, it's interesting you say, what makes you lose sleep at night. I know there's a lot of things, and this kind of leads me into my next question. There's a lot of things that keep MSPs up at night.
Right.
Especially now, pick one, pick an issue.
Right.
So no, that's really interesting. So again, kind of leading into my next question, what can Live Optics do for, say, like SMBs, and how does kind of an MSP benefit?
Absolutely. So one of the cool features in Live Optics, and we hear a lot about it these days as well, is there is a cloud tool. So for a lot of SMBs, for a lot of MSPs, a lot of conversations right now aren't even, I think I need a new computer or a new system. It's, are we going to move to the cloud? Is this something that we're moving cloud-based, or what is the cloud? Can you tell me about it? It's a conversation that is becoming more and more relevant as time moves forward. Well, on Live Optics, there's a really cool way that you can run the tool. It gives you all of your, we'll just call them specs, or all of your data statistics of where your system's at. There's a literal button you can click on, and it shows you what that entire infrastructure would look like in the cloud. So SMBs right now and MSPs, the more and more that cloud conversation's coming, Live Optics is a hand-in-hand tool that you can go ahead and run to help facilitate that conversation on either side. So when we go cloud, we're putting our stuff in the cloud, and when we're staying on-prem and maybe refreshing physical hardware, we're staying, on-prem. So Live Optics gives you kind of a pricing indicator, a guideline on what maybe your infrastructure looks like right now, what it could look like in the cloud. And I know that that's a helpful tool for MSPs to be able to facilitate and walk people through that conversation. I mentioned earlier, it's very pretty. It has colors on it, PowerPoint, PDF. It's very easy to understand. So for SMBs, MSPs, anyone with a knowledge base of nothing when it comes to IT or a lot, it's easy for everyone to understand. And you can run it anywhere. It doesn't matter. I work at Dell. It doesn't have to be Dell. You can run this on any system.
Interesting. So going back really quick to just, digging down a little bit further, I think into, you said it's easy to use, for people who have either no knowledge or a lot, when it comes to the cloud conversation, I think that's an important one because there's been a lot of movement to the cloud over the past couple of years and it's still happening.
Absolutely.
So you dig down a little bit more into, kind of how it makes it easier in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times right now, and I keep using this technology refresh, word, and that can look different for every business. For some people, it might be routine every 3 years. For some, it might be 5 to 7 years. Sometimes we have the tried and true. I'm going to use this until it breaks. Well, we see both sides of it, but it's what happens next. So a lot more these days, we're seeing the transition from actual hardware to cloud. And that eliminates a lot of hardware. It eliminates, hands-on management, a lot of routine. A lot of IT people will say people that might be their only job for one business, or MSPs that have lots of clients. It's a transition and it's a absolute conversation that's being had more. And Live Optics can really run and show you, maybe this is a perfect time to make a cloud transition. Maybe we don't need to yet because Live Optics is showing us we're only using 10% of what we could in our server or our system. Or maybe we really thought this wasn't working well, but it is. So let's keep this for now. And then maybe in a year or two, we can continue to have that cloud conversation. And it's almost when you pull over on the side of the road and you pop your hood and you thought you heard a noise and then there's nothing there. Live Optics is very similar to that, almost like putting your entire IT environment on hold for a second, running Live Optics, and then it really shows you, is something actually smoking? Am I hearing a crazy noise, or is everything okay? Is it time? Is it not time? Live Optics is a big filter that can really decipher, do we need to refresh? Are we staying on-prem? Let's look at this whole cloud option we have over here. Is this something that looks nice? It's easy to walk through, and it makes that whole deciphering, I'll say, the fork in the road when it goes on-prem cloud in this MSPs for SMBs, it makes it very simple, very, very clear.
Got it. Really great. Awesome. Thank you. I think, again, there's a lot of things that MSPs have to worry about these days. And that's certainly, hits a couple buttons for them. I do know that.
Right.
It is the checking the under the hood analogy. I love that.
Absolutely.
Well, Katie, before we kind of sign off here, is there anything else you want to be sure to mention?
No, I think if I drove anything home, it was that Live Optics can be ran on any environment and anyone can use it. It's not something that only I have access to and I'm just sitting here talking about it. Anyone can do it. Live Optics has a website. You can go, you can see demos, you can see how it's ran. It's very, very user friendly. It's easy to digest for absolutely anyone. So for SMBs, for MSPs, I always kind of say, use it and abuse it. It's free. It requires nothing. It can't hurt. It's a really awesome tool to use.
Amazing. Well, Katie, again, thank you so much for being on with us today. Really great hearing about Live Optics, and thank you for taking us through that.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks. And this has been an episode of Channel Futures TV. Thanks for tuning in.